So good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss about dry socket and control of hemorrhage. So coming to the dry socket, it is one of the most common complications encountered after tooth extraction. It's also called as alveolar osteitis. So it is one of the most common complications which is encountered after tooth extraction. It's also called as alveolar osteitis. Alveolar osteitis or dry socket is a wound healing disorder which is partially or totally characterized by disintegration of blood clot within the alveolar socket. So, alveolar osteitis is a wound healing disorder which is partially or totally characterized by disintegration of blood clot within the alveolar socket. So, there is a total loss or disintegration of blood clot which is formed after extraction of tooth from the socket, and this leads to dry socket or alveolar osteitis. The inflammation occurs in the bone marrow cavities due to the infected alveolar socket, and this inflammation disturbs the cells and releases tissue activators. So the main cause for dry socket is the inflammation which occurs in the bone marrow cavities due to infected alveolar socket, and this inflammation causes or releases the tissue activators. And at the end of this fibrinolytic activity, the plasminogen in the clot that transforms into plasmin, which destroys the blood clot or the fibrin network which is in the blood clot, and this leads to alveolar osteitis or dry socket. So the infection or excessive trauma leads to release of tissue activating factors, and this tissue activating factors leads to conversion of plasminogen into plasmin, and this plasmin is a fibrinolytic agent which causes lysis of your blood clot which has formed, and this disintegrates your blood clot, and this leads to alveolar osteitis or dry socket. And this plasmin also causes pain by kinins. These kinins activate the primary efferent nerve terminations which in concentration of 1 nanogram per ml causes intense pain in the tooth socket. When alveolar osteitis occurs in the mandible, it causes pain reaching to the ear and temporal region. When it occurs in the maxilla, alveolar osteitis causes pain reaching to forehead and suborbital region. And this fibrinolytic theory is also known as Burns hypothesis. So the cause for dry socket is your Burns hypothesis or fibrinolytic theory. So coming to again this fibrinolytic theory, excessive trauma or infection leads to release of tissue activating factors, and they cause conversion of plasminogen into plasmin, and this plasmin is a fibrinolytic agent which causes disintegration or lysis of your blood clot which has formed in the extraction socket. This dry socket occurs 1 to 3 days after the extraction. The pain mostly is not relieved by analgesic agents, and it lasts for 7 to 10 days. And this, as I said, Burns hypothesis is the most accepted explanation of dry socket. According to this hypothesis, trauma and inflammation causes release of stable tissue activators from the adjacent bony socket and soft tissue, and this tissue activators converts plasminogen into plasmin. Please remember this Burns hypothesis or fibrinolytic theory, which is very important and most commonly or frequently asked question in your final year exams. And in the treatment of alveolar osteitis or dry socket, the primary aim is to reduce pain level and improve the comfort of the patient until the healing is fully ensured. The incidence of alveolar osteitis was higher in the third and fourth decades of life. Coming to the risk factors which are associated with alveolar osteitis. So coming to the risk factors, previous experience of alveolar osteitis, deeply impacted mandibular third molar. The risk factor is directly proportional to increasing severity of impaction. Poor oral hygiene of patient, active or recent history of acute ulcerative gingivitis or pericoronitis associated with the teeth to be extracted, and the smoking, especially greater than those who smoke more than 20 cigarettes per day, and use of oral contraceptives and immunocompromised patients. So the risk factors for alveolar osteitis are previous experience of alveolar osteitis, deeply impacted third molar, poor oral hygiene, and patient with a recent history of acute ulcerative gingivitis or pericoronitis, and patient who is a chronic smoker and use of and the patients who are under oral contraceptives and immunocompromised patients. So these patients are highly prone for dry socket or alveolar osteitis after tooth extraction. A summary of non-pharmacological measures to prevent alveolar osteitis. Use of good quality current preoperative radiographs, careful planning of the surgery, use of good surgical principles. Extraction should be performed with minimum amount of trauma and maximum amount of care. Confirm presence of blood clot subsequent to extraction of tooth. Wherever possible, preoperative oral hygiene measures to reduce plaque levels to a minimum should be instituted. Encourage the patient to stop or limit smoking in the immediate postoperative period. Advise patient to avoid vigorous mouthwash or rinsing for the period of 24 hours after post extraction and to use gentle toothbrushing in the immediate postoperative period. And for patients taking oral contraceptives, extractions should ideally be performed during days 23rd through 28 of the menstrual cycle. Comprehensive pre and post operative verbal instructions should be supplemented with written advice to ensure maximum compliance. So these are the measures that a doctor should take to prevent dry socket or alveolar osteitis. The use of good quality current preoperative radiographs, careful planning of the surgery, use of good surgical principles. Extractions should be performed with a minimum amount of trauma and maximum amount of care. Confirm presence of blood clot. Wherever possible, preoperative oral hygiene measures to reduce plaque levels to a minimum should be instituted. Encourage the patient to stop or limit smoking in the immediate postoperative period. Advise the patient to avoid vigorous mouth rinsing for the first 24 hours post extraction and to use gentle tooth brushing. And for patients taking oral extraction should be done, that is through 23rd to 28 days of your menstruation cycle. Comprehensive pre and post operative verbal instructions should be supplemented with written advice to ensure maximum compliance. Next complication is hemorrhage. How do you control hemorrhage from your bleeding socket? Hemostasis should be achieved during surgery for the following reasons. One is to minimize the intraoperative total blood loss, increase visibility, to increase the speed of surgery, and to cut down the total operating time. And to minimize the post-surgical hematoma, the hematoma decreases vascularity, increases the wound tension, acts as a culture media, and makes it susceptible for development of post-operative wound infection. Hemostasis can be controlled by, there are mainly three methods to control hemorrhage or bleeding from the socket. One is by mechanical, second one is by thermal, third one is by chemical. Mechanical method is by application of pressure. It is done by either placement of cotton or gauze sponges or with hemostat clamping. The pressure is usually applied for 20 to 30 seconds for smaller tiny vessels, while larger vessels require about 5 to 10 minutes of continuous pressure. So the first method is control of hemorrhage by mechanical method. Mechanical method is mainly by placement of pressure. This pressure is applied by the placement of gauze or cotton, the use of hemostat for clamping the vessels, and your suturing techniques, or by suturing the blood vessels or the extraction socket. So these are the mechanical ways or methods to control bleeding. Next one is thermal method. Thermal is by use of electrocautery. For this judicious thermal coagulation, the area around the vessel should be dried thoroughly. Avoid unnecessary burning of the tissue. So thermal is by placement of electrocautery or by placement of heat on the bleeder vessel. So identify the bleeder vessel and place your electrocautery or deliver your heat to the bleeder vessel so that it gets coagulated. So next technique is by thermally. First one is mechanically, second one is thermally, and third one is by chemically. Chemically, you have to use the agents like Surgicel, gel form, and also drugs like epinephrine, thrombin, or collagen. So place all these materials into the bleeding socket and suture this. So the gel foam or the Surgicel acts as a scaffold and they promote the blood clot formation. So methods to control hemorrhage or bleeding from the socket is: one is by mechanical, chemical, thermal. Mechanical is by placement of or application of pressure by cotton, gauze, suture material, and use of hemostats to clamp the bleeder vessels. Next is chemically. Chemically by use of epinephrine, Surgicel, gel foam, and usage of bone wax to control bleeding from the bone. Next is thermal, the placement of electrocautery or application of heat to the bleeder vessels or bleeder point. A protocol for treating the patients on anticoagulants. Proper history should be taken: drug dosage, status of medical condition, PTR and INR level. Patient should be on a proper antibiotic cover. Schedule the appointment within 2 days once desired range of PTR and INR is done. A PTR 1.5 to 2 and INR 2.0 to 3.0 is ideal. Do not stop or alter the drug dosage. PTR 2.0 to 2.5 and INR 2.2 dosage may be altered. PTR greater than 2.5 and INR greater than 3.5, delay invasive procedure until dosage is decreased. Physician should be consulted regarding the dosage modification. Confirm status of PTR and INR on the day of surgery. Use atraumatic surgical technique. Control post-operative bleeding by local measures. Patient's anticoagulant dosage can be regulated back in 48 to 78 hours in consultation with physicians. Thank you.